Welcome to this podcast of Sound Off from July 17th, 2020 with your host, Nate Laux. Nate's guest today is Nick Minich, the engineer for the city of LaPorte. Now here's your host, Nate Laux.
Hello, friends. This is Nate Laux. Thank you for listening to Sound Off today. It is Friday, July 17th, 2020, and we're glad to have you with us today. Let me get right to it and introduce our guest in the studio. We have Nick Minich with us today. Nick Minich is the engineer for the city of LaPorte. Born and raised in LaPorte County, he has extensive experience and expertise in community, municipal, and civil engineering projects. Because of an innovative pavement management system designed by Mr. Minich, LaPorte was the first city in Indiana to win a federal grant for pavement maintenance based on an approved asset management system, which is a lot of words that, might not mean much, but we'll get into that. He received his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Valparaiso University and his master's degree in sustainable infrastructures from the University of Colorado. He's a member of Northwest Indiana Society of Innovators. We are happy to have with us the city of LaPorte, Indiana's city engineer, Nick Minich. And if you have a question or a comment, if you have something to share or quiz or ask Mr. Minich about, you can call the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522. You're welcome to also text that number, 219-362-0522. Or you can email us at soundoff@967theeagle.com. So welcome, Nick. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, real quick, let's talk. What does a city engineer do?
What does a city engineer do?
Yeah, what do they do? What do they don't do, kind of?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
Every day seems to be different. The city engineer is really kind of geared towards maintaining within the right-of-way, public buildings, things like that. But we also issue building permits and do a number of other things. So we're a very diverse office in what we do. But we're not maintaining streets on a daily basis. We're not, doing that daily operations that, say, the wastewater department or street department would be doing.
Great. Well, we already have some calls for you, and I imagine we're going to have quite a few of them. So I'm going to take our first caller. Hello, welcome to Sound Off. Who's with me today?
This is Regina.
Hey, Regina, how are you?
All right. He's a city engineer. We got a whole bunch of streets over here. I've lived on these streets for 10 years. They haven't been paved. All they've been is patched.
Where are you at, if you don't mind me saying, Regina?
Nissan to Richmond. Richmond needs paved. Warsaw, at corner of Warsaw and Hudson.
Sure.
Lansing, they've turned it back into gravel. And I think something needs to be done. We're taxpayers, too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for calling, Regina. Let's talk a little bit about that, Nick.
Sure.
What about your asset pavement management system? Again, a lot of people have questions about roads. When's roads going to get paved? Can you explain that system that you got federal money for and things like that?
First, for the caller's reference, we did receive a grant at the end of last year and then this year. Nissan and Richmond are both on our paving list for this year. So that project is out for bid right now. Contractors will be submitting bids on Monday, and we'll make a recommendation on Tuesday. So,
Regina, that's the power of Sound Off, all right? Your roads are getting repaved.
And honestly, those two streets, a lot of the streets in that area, we do have, like she mentioned, another street that has not made our asset management system. A lot of the streets in that area had been in decent condition. There's a lot of confusion because we used to adhere to more of a worst first policy. So we'd go out, we'd find the worst streets, and you'd fix those. With asset management, we're trying to change that. So instead of just going out and fixing the worst streets, that's the most expensive thing the city can do. So if we're paying, X dollars, we're paying X times 10 to go out and reconstruct a street. So what we've been focused on over the last 4 or 5 years is getting our decent streets in good condition and maintaining them in good condition. Maintaining our streets that are in okay condition is significantly less expensive for the city, and then that allows us to come back and handle a street like Neeson that has some serious issues and go back and reconstruct it. That project's going to cost a lot more than, say, an 1.5-inch mill and resurface on some of the streets in that area. So there are streets that get left behind. It's all part of our system that we really try and optimize funding so that we're not wasting a single taxpayer dollar. We use as many different funding sources as we can for road paving. We use federal aid, as you mentioned. We're one of the very few communities in the state that can access federal aid for paving. You can access it for rebuilding a road or a new road, but not asset management, not just general maintenance, which would be 1.5 inches of pavement here or there, or kind of those basic projects. And then we also utilize the Community Crossings program. Community Crossings is a state program we've been very successful at. They fund 50%, we fund 50%. That 50% match is almost exclusively wheel tax dollars. So the money we get in wheel tax doesn't go far enough to cover the maximum amount of grant we could get from the state. It goes about 3/4 of the way. There's a trash impact fee that takes us to almost that $1 million match, and then we have the opportunity to compete for $2 million total each year for road paving.
How many road miles are in the city of LaPorte?
So we have about 113 centerline miles of road.
And what is it going to cost to get us up to essentially, if budget wasn't a question, obviously it always is with municipal money, but what is it going to cost probably to get everything paved and ready to go? How far are we behind essentially?
We're way behind. We're way behind, but we're catching up. So over the past 4 or 5 years, since about 2016 when we implemented our asset management program, we did a pretty big paving program in 2015, but since implementing asset management, we've paved about 50% of the streets. So we're right at that 50% mark with this year's paving program. Total investment to get to that point, to get to half our streets in good condition. And again, this isn't addressing the more complicated, more difficult streets to repair. Up until this year, we had spent almost $8 million, and then over 4 years, and then this year we're spending an extra 3.2. So it takes a significant amount of money to get us where we need to be.
All right, we have another caller. Thanks. Let's take them. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How you doing?
Pretty good. It's Tom. Hey, I want to know what's going on with up there at Monroe Manor. That started here a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, and then it was supposed to be completed within 2 years, and they just shut that off. And I'd like to know what we're talking about with Boyd Boulevard. I mean, that started last year. They still got the pipe sitting up there. Mm-hmm. Nobody showed up to do anything on that. I just don't understand what we're doing.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Thanks for calling. Nick, what about Monroe Manor?
So starting with Monroe Manor. Monroe Manor, there was a bond. This was actually before I started here. There was a bond to start that project. So we've completed the first, I believe, 2 phases of Monroe Manor, and we're looking to find the additional funding to continue the project. The entire thing's been designed. The intent of creating a stormwater utility a little over a year ago now was to create the revenue in order to do sewer separation. So the Monroe Manor is a sewer separation project. It will take a bond in order to complete the rest of the project. So it's all about finding the right timing and the right funds to get it done right. So we're not just patching Monroe Manor. We're actually fully reconstructing and separating the sewers. So you have separate sanitary and storm sewer, which is not only required for the city to do over the long term, but is going to really improve quality of life in that area.
What is the total cost of Monroe Manor project as a whole? I know you're trying to get some more money and stuff like that. I mean, ballpark.
I think the remainder was I think it was somewhere between $4 and $6 million to complete the project.
Great. All right, great. We have another caller.
Boyd Boulevard.
Oh, sorry, Boyd Boulevard. Yes.
Boyd Boulevard was a really great project. It was another sewer separation project, but it was also benefiting the businesses on the other side of Lincoln Way. So we were able to utilize redevelopment commission funds to do the first phase of that project. We've finished the first phase. Everything south of that section is earmarked for our federal aid paving next year, and then the next kind of phase of Boyd Boulevard, which gets the rest of the pipe in the ground and across Lincoln Way, and then serves the industrial area in that vicinity. We're hoping either later this year or in the spring to get that project moving.
Well, this is Sound Off. My name is Nate Laux. I'm with Nick Minich. If you have a question or a comment, please call or text the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522. All right, we have another caller. Hello. Welcome to Sound Off.
Minich?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Minich. I live out here at 2301 I Street, out here at the chicane.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to you a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you said you were going to put some speed bumps in out here. Where are they at?
Yeah, and actually I talked to, I think, Councilwoman Ficus about this recently too. That was something that we would like to do. We're working with our street department. We're not doing speed bumps per se. What we recommended was, and we make the recommendation and then have, street department would carry this out. We're looking at doing thicker thermoplastic in order to give that kind of rumple and warning that you need to reduce your speeds as you're coming into the city. I know we would like to figure out what we can do as much as possible to make sure people are hitting that stop sign. That's the biggest thing is coming in south of town, heading north. There's a lot of people that are missing that stop sign. That again was we tried to create as complete of project as possible. We had an issue with the side of the street really being more north of this location, being very deteriorated. So we added parking, we added sidewalks in a residential area, and we kept getting, and we did some stormwater work, and we kept getting complaint after complaint of people not missing the stop sign and people wanting more stop signs in that stretch. But if people aren't hitting one stop sign, they're probably not going to hit the other one. So we just looked at some other alternatives, and a horizontal shift in traffic and some road narrowing is actually a way that's used a lot of other places to slow traffic down so they're more aware, and then hopefully are creating a safer situation and people are seeing the stop sign and are stopping there. So we will continue to work with the street department, and I know I've talked to them also about some increased signage and different things to try and make sure that people who are really traveling pretty fast coming into town are slowing down in that location. And then I believe the police department was doing a traffic study as well.
Great. We do have a text in. When do you think that the B Street flooding project will be addressed?
B Street flooding has been a challenge, partially because it's very complicated. It seems simple. There's a street, it floods. But where do we put that? So we were able to acquire a property adjacent to B Street, but that's a very, very long-term, large-scale project. So we're trying to kind of balance the need for an immediate solution and not investing so much in the immediate solution that we're wasting money that could go towards the long-term solution. So it's been a challenge to get the project up and running. The other challenge is the funding source for that is likely also going to be the stormwater utility. Without the stormwater utility fully funded, the council pulled back on funding of that utility. We also have to figure out how much we can do and when. So funding's been an issue. It's been a challenge to keep that project moving forward. I'm involved in that. It's also the wastewater department, stormwater department that's very involved in that. So we will continue to work on the project, and we want to get it accomplished as soon as possible.
It is a funding issue, though.
It's a combination.
Okay.
It's a combination of fixing things right and using the right dollars.
All right, let's take one more caller before break. You're with Nick Minich. Welcome to Sound Off. Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Minich and Mr. Laux.
Hey.
My name's Steve Hollifield.
Hey, buddy.
My question, reading the legal sections for all the municipalities around here, the city of LaPorte has done it in the past. The county has done it a lot of times. When you put a bid out and say contractor A bids $100,000 for the project, contractor B, the exact same work, good quality job, everything else, bids $80,000, they will sometimes award the contract to contractor A, who turns around and then subcontracts it to contractor B. And I'm the main reason I'm asking is I'm very curious about the Tidma Baking demolition project, because there's over $100,000 difference in there. Can you explain why you would take a higher bid and then allow them to contract it to the lower bid? Thank you.
Good question. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, in my time at the city, I I don't know that I can think of maybe one time that we actually took a higher bid. It wasn't actually one of my projects, if I remember right. So we really try to make sure that we are 100% following Indiana bid law and adhering to all the rules. And I don't know in the rules where you can easily make that determination to hire somebody at a higher cost. It's not something I'm comfortable doing. On our paving projects, we really know our contractors because we don't have many. On our sidewalk projects, we don't have that many people interested in bidding all the time on our sidewalk work. So we know our contractors pretty well, and we don't know that we run into that situation where we have somebody coming in higher and then subbing it out. And if they do come in higher, we follow Indiana bid law, and Indiana bid law says you have to really disqualify the low bid in order to go higher.
So with the TIDMA, as he was saying, there was a difference there.
Yeah, so those bids are still under review. We opened those at the last Board of Works meeting, and because of the variation in price, we want to make sure we get it all right. That it's just a really odd thing to have such a wide variation in price. So I'm working with our planner, Tom Casey, Marion Richards with the CDBG program, and Nick Otis, our attorney, to make sure that the recommendation we make at the Board of Works meeting on Tuesday is the right recommendation. But again, we don't usually see that wide of variation. Our paving program this year was right around the $1.3 million budget, and both paving contractors came in slightly under budget and within a few $1,000s of each other. So it's not that often that we see that variation. If we see that variation, it kind of makes us think, and we try and figure out what's going on. But ultimately, it's a low bid process, and that's the law.
Well, we're going to take a break real quick. I'm with Nick Minich. This is Sound Off. If you have a call or a question, call into the Liquor Vault on air line at 219-362-0522. You're welcome to text as well. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, friends. I'm with City of LaPorte engineer Nick Minich. Let's take a couple more questions that we have. So this came through our email. Who do I email about fixing a road in front of my house? And the address is there. I won't read it just because I don't want to give this person's address out. By curb where we park is about 3 inches lower and holds water all the time. So if somebody's got a problem with their road specifically, and maybe their curbs, who do they talk to? Is it you? Is it the street department? Who's their first call?
If it's a maintenance issue, you call the street department. If you need potholes filled, if there's small indentation, like if there's an issue with water on the road, things like that, that's something that the street department would do. The engineering department really focuses on larger paving programs. So with this address, it looks like it's a local street. If it's in that bad of condition, it have a lower pacer rating, and that's what we're looking at now. So we've been able over the last 4 or 5 years to get to a place where we are addressing streets at a pacer rating, which is a surface rating system we use to rate our streets, at 3 or below in their local streets. So not the arterials, not the collectors, not the kind of main streets. So our paving program is going to be focused on streets like this one, local streets that are in bad condition that need reconstruction.
Specifically, I can't say it was D Street.
D Street, yep. D Street, that's the type of street that we're going to focus on. We can't do every street every year. I mean, like I said, we have a very limited budget, and the amount of money we get in from the state is key in how much we can do. But we do as much as we can. We use our asset management system to stretch the dollars as far as we can. And every single dollar that we have for paving, which primarily will come from either wheel tax or, like I said, the trash impact fee, is doubled. So we make sure that every dollar, or actually it's quadrupled if we use federal funds. So we make sure every dollar is used as efficiently and appropriately as possible.
All right, we have another text here. Why does the city, on improvements to the streets, decide to put in islands at intersections instead of making it maintenance, instead of a higher maintenance at a higher cost to the city with employees, time to take care of those areas?
I would have to get a little more background on where this is, because I think every project warrants different aspects of, whether it needs curb in that area, whether the the island is there. We put in some pedestrian refuge islands as part of our 18th Street project to in coordination with the school to better protect students as they walk.
So they don't have to cross the whole road.
So they don't have to walk the whole way, so that they're a little more protected. Federal Highway has a lot of research in how effective those are, and they're very effective at protecting students. So it really depends on the situation. Without more information, I can't.
Sure. All right, we have another caller. Welcome to Sound Off. How are you doing?
Yeah, I heard you say that you do not repave every road that needs to be repaved, but I see you repaving roads that do not need repaved. Why?
All right, thanks for calling.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was referring to. Is the worst first method doesn't work for us financially. So streets that may not seem like they need repaved may still need a surface treatment. So we may need to do a thin overlay. We may need to do crack sealing. We may need to do a fog seal. We may need to do 1.5 inches in order to keep that road in good condition. And that is what allows us to go back and have the funds to really fix the roads that are in the worst condition correctly. So it's taken time, and we're starting to get to that place where we're doing more full-depth pavement replacement on streets that people notice as being very bad streets.
So, Nick, then, if I'm hearing you right, many of the streets that are left to get repaved, especially those that maybe people notice are fairly bad, those are probably mostly reconstructions then, huh?
Yeah, correct. So, for example, over the last 4 years, the average price of our paving program put us right around, $2 million was getting us about 10% of the city. So we were at that 10 to 15 miles of improvements. We are putting in this year $3.2 million of improvements, and it's going to get us 9 miles. So the projects are getting more expensive, and the reason we're able to do that and do more pavement depth, more subgrade treatment, more curb, more sidewalk, more of the things that our streets really need is because we've gotten a lot of those streets that seem good in a condition that ideally our street department comes back in and maintains then. So our street department does crack sealing. We're working on getting our street department to do fog sealing. So we want to build the capacity in our street department to maintain the good streets in good condition, and then we can continue that pavement life significantly longer, and over the term of that pavement's life, save money for the city and allow for more streets to get fixed correctly.
Great. Thanks so much for calling. We got another caller on the line. Hello, welcome to Sound Off. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Yes, my question is about Bosserman Street. We're only talking about 3 blocks, and I've lived here 43 years on Albright. We have to go down Bosserman to get out, away from home, and I don't ever remember it being repaved.
Yeah,
Albright's been repaved twice in the last year, and yes, the second time I didn't need it. But they said Bosserman was on the list. I read it in the paper a couple of months ago, but I just wanted to make sure, because they did tell, I do call a lot.
Yep.
They did call me and tell me that it had to be rebuilt. Was the
correct.
reason it hasn't been.
So Bosserman is a local street that had a lower PACER rating. The streets that you mentioned had higher PACER ratings, so we were able to do those at a lower cost. Now that we're turning that corner, Bosserman is getting full depth pavement replacement. I talked to the contractor this morning, I think it was yesterday morning, and they're planning to come in about 2 weeks to start milling. So we still have Bosserman, Cook, Hines, Pulaski, and Clay Street, and then Lakeshore Drive. Those are the streets in the current program that are yet to be completed, but in process.
Thanks so much for calling. I'm going to, again, attribute that to the power of Sound Off. Now Bosserman is getting recorded. All right. Do we have another caller, Dennis? All right. We've got another caller. Hello. Welcome to Sound Off. How are you? Hello?
Oh, it's me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I understand our streets are terrible. And, yeah, reconstruction costs more money. Why are we focused on a bridge?
All right. Well, thanks for calling. Hey, I assume he's talking about maybe the Tipton Street overpass or bridge. Can you explain maybe what the project is, and does that impact road funding or anything like that? So
No, that project isn't really hopefully going to impact our road funding. So we're really very grateful we were able to get a grant from the state, and we were able to, that's a 80% funding, but that's only on construction and right of way. So that's a project for the future. We have to maintain the roads we have now. We've got to get to a better place, but we also have to keep looking for the future and trying to make sure we have the most efficient, safest road network we can. So that project's actually not going to happen for another 2 to 3 years. That funding isn't going to come out for another 2 to 3 years. So we're just trying to make sure we're looking ahead also.
All right, we're going to do one quick text with just a quick answer, and then one caller, and then we'll be done. So who would I contact about the sidewalk heaving because of the maple trees between the sidewalk and the street?
So you can call the engineering department.
What's the number?
Email. So email would be nminich@cityoflaportein.gov. We have a new employee starting on Monday, and she'll help us with sidewalks. And phone number is 219-362-2327. It's 219-362-2327.
All right, our last caller of the day. Oh, no? Are they gone? All right. Well, thanks so much for calling. Thanks for texting. Thanks for emailing, everyone. We had a lot of calls and texts and emails. Sorry we couldn't get through them all. Nick, I'm going to have you back on soon because I think there's still a lot of questions, and it's always helpful to get answers from the people that are actually a part of the projects and making the decisions and stuff like that. If you have a question, again, if you have a comment for Mr. Minich, the city engineer, can you one more time give that email or
Sure.
phone number?
Phone number for engineering is 219-362-2327. And email is nminich, that's NMINICH @cityoflaportein.gov.
Well, thanks so much for listening today to Sound Off. We'll be back on Monday at 12:30, and then next Friday, as my guest is City Council person Tim Frankie. And I hope you listen. Please subscribe to our podcast, share it with your friends, and let us know. Again, if you've got an interest in a guest or anything like that you want on Sound Off, let us know, and we'd be happy to accommodate that. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day, great weekend. Enjoy your life. Take care.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. Sound Off airs every Monday and Friday at 12:30. Please mark your calendar and join us again for the next edition of Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for listening to the Sound Off podcast on 967theeagle.com.